Unless you're in the know, leaves on the line can either be taken as a curse, knowing that your train's going to be late, or even a joke. But why is this even a thing? And why wasn't it a bigger problem before? In the early days of the railway in the UK, rails went through anything and everything to get to their destination. This included over lakes and rivers by means of bridges and viaducts, under hills and even towns, and through cuttings specially dug for the railways to march through. Ancient woodlands and forests were no exception. Simply put, many trees seen on the railway bankings were probably there before even the railway set foot. Trees provide the railway a lot more than looking pretty though. For some, they are essential to help protecting the line. Funnily enough, I learnt this not through research, but in a demonstration by a conservationist at my last visit to the Great Yorkshire Show. He taught me that water erosion of embankments was actually increased by the removal of vegetation and trees, in particular tree roots. As the tree roots embed into the soil, this helps hold everything in place rather than be washed away by the rainwater above. Although I tried other means of stopping the erosion, like a wall and barrier, this only moved the problem further down the embankment. It really amazed me that for all the defences we put up, it's Mother Nature that had it figured out years ago. Not only do trees provide this service, but their canopy can help too. In the summer, the natural canopy can help shield the sight and sound from passing trains, and as the sites around the trains are fenced off and inaccessible to the public, the railway embankments can provide habitats to many native wildlife species, including birds, foxes, snakes, badgers and rabbits. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. In the autumn, Network Rail will see leaves from 31 million trees, equating to thousands of tonnes in weight, dumped on their lines in the span of a few short weeks. While the colours may seem pretty enough, it's really a headache. With the coming of autumn comes the rainy seasons in the UK. The weather turns, and as many saw this week, we get a fair amount of rain and wind. The wet leaves fall to the ground and on the tracks, namely the railhead. As the trains pass through, they hit the leaves, and the weight and heat turn them into a type of mulch. It's this mulch that causes the problem. The mulch kinda acts like an oil and reduces adhesion of the train to the rails. The low adhesion can cause the wheels to slip, and as we saw a few years ago, this can lead to disastrous results. To give you an idea of how slippery leaves are, imagine walking on wet leaves on a grass verge wearing just slippers. Not good. Also, please don't do this, it's not the greatest idea. But if this was such a problem, why wasn't things done 100 years ago to combat it when the railways were younger? Well, I can't be sure these didn't cause major issues like today. I have researched the archives extensively, and apart from 2 accidents on the railway, archived in 1884 and 1877, where leaves were directly involved, I can find little evidence of the clearing of leaves on an industrial level, which, for such a big problem, I thought it was odd. So I was curious and checked on my time on the heritage scene, as I could never remember us stopping for leaves, even though we're in the heart of the Dales and I've seen my fair share of trees. And one thing really struck me as I was cleaning the engine the other week. The one thing that was always needing cleaning, especially during autumn, to clear them of the gunk that they accumulate, the brake shoes. All of our coaches, our rolling stock and our engines have brake shoes. The shoes would grip onto the tyres, but instead of just clamping down either side of the wheel, the tyres grind against the shoes. It was this motion that helped clear the tyres, and the mulch would fall off the shoes and harmlessly to the trackside. In effect, the shoes were doing a job that no one intended or expected them to do. But as technology moves on, so do innovations in railroading, and this includes the braking system. Since the 1960s, there's been a steady increase in the use of disc brakes on rolling stock. Disc brakes uses a caliper that squeezes a pair of pads against a small disc attached to the vehicle's axle. The use of the pads creates both friction and heat. The heat is dispersed, while the friction helps slow the rotational speed of the axle down, or even hold it in place. This in turn stops the wheels, and with it, the train. While disc brakes are more economical than the shoes, it meant that the tyres on the wheels of the trains were not being cleaned. So gradually, as the rolling stock was being changed, the leaves on the line were becoming more and more of a problem. So with that in mind, we turned to Network Rail for a modern solution. It has not one, but 61 leaf-busting trains with 81 separate teams ready to clear the tracks to keep the trains running to time and the passengers safe. These railhead treatment trains travel the length of the country and were once operated by various classes of diesels. The trains are specially designed to spray the tracks with high-power water jets designed to remove any mulch on them. As well as removing the mulch, the last car applies a mixture called sandite. The sandite is a gel-like mixture which contains a mix of sand and aluminium and is applied to the railhead to give any passing trains extra adhesion. Sandite is generally used in built-up areas where traffic is more dense and the leaf clearing is more urgent. If the mulch is very bad, then the teams can clear up the tracks and the rails by hand if required. When not in use, these trains are usually found in York, but when they are needed, they're sent all around the country and can be seen as many diagrams under the number BRE head code. They mostly operate at night, but if it's busy, many will operate during the day. As well as offering track clearing, Network Rail are checking the status of the trees on its network. Nobody likes the destruction of vegetation, but Network Rail strives to achieve the perfect balance between sustainability and safety. Fallen trees and overgrown branches can pose a real threat to the line and the engines that run it. The line and the surrounding areas are put into zones. Anything within the vicinity of the cess must be dealt with straight away, while vegetation near the cess must be monitored. Wildlife corridors have been introduced, and where trees have been fallen, the branches have been moved into hedgerows. With the railway being the fourth largest landowner in the country, it's a lot of land to look over. Network Rail routinely cut away vegetation too close to the line, and broader leaf trees are discouraged from growing near the line. The railway works with a variety of trusts, wildlife and nature organisations to ensure that minimal impact is caused to the natural environment while keeping the railway running. While many people do find it frustrating, leaves on the line are no joke. But Network Rail is committed to keeping the railway safe. It's nowhere near perfect, but with new techniques coming out all the time, it's hoped that a long-term solution to the leaves will be found with minimal impact to the environment. In the meantime, keep your eye on those head codes on those diagrams. With autumn well and truly underway, it's likely that the railhead treatment trains will be paying a visit.